This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for this first edition of CBN NewsWatch for September 27th. I'm Mark Martin. Democrats are steamrolling ahead with their impeachment inquiry into whether or not President Trump abused his power to pressure Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden. But newly uncovered documents conflict with the story Biden tells about the pressure he put on Ukraine while vice president. Biden insists he wanted Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin gone because he was corrupt, not because he was investigating Burisma Holdings, a company employing his son Hunter at the time. But a newly uncovered sworn affidavit tells another story.
In that statement, Mr. Shokin swears under oath he was told he was fired because he refused to drop the Burisma investigation, and it made Mr. Biden, the vice president, unhappy.
Senior Washington correspondent Jennifer Wishon joins us now with more on this rapidly changing story. Jennifer, what do these new documents mean for Joe Biden?
Well, Mark, I think that it certainly raises questions about how Biden used his power to influence Ukrainian officials. Certainly, Biden was not the only world leader at the time who was interested in seeing Viktor Shokin, removed from office or thought that he was corrupt. But there's no question that this prosecutor was looking into the company that Biden's son worked for at the time. And there's no question that this was 2016 during the last presidential election. And so certainly Democrats didn't want to have a massive scandal on their hands. So I think this is something that his critics are certainly going to point to for many, many months to come. It's something that's going to follow him throughout this primary process.
Yesterday, the director of national intelligence testified before Congress. How are lawmakers reacting to that?
Well, Mark, you'll be surprised to hear that Republicans and Democrats saw this very differently. Democrats listened to his testimony and said, aha. The White House worked to at least limit the number of people who were going to see this transcript of this phone conversation. And they're saying this is evidence of obstruction of justice or abuse of power. Republicans say they want to learn more about the whistleblower. And, they say that this was not firsthand knowledge. The whistleblower was hearing the details of this transcript from other members of the intelligence community, and they say that's a problem. If you're going to blow your whistle, it needs to be because you have firsthand knowledge of wrongdoing.
All right. Thank you so much, Jennifer. We appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you.
House Democrats recently proposed re-examining the tax-exempt status of dozens of socially conservative organizations. The House Ways and Means Committee held a hearing titled How the Tax Code Subsidized Hate. Some 60 organizations labeled hate groups by the ultra-left Southern Poverty Law Center were targeted. Those groups included the Family Research Council, American Family Association, and D. James Kennedy Ministries. The SPLC often defines groups that support a biblical view of marriage as hate groups. In 2019, Christian and conservative leaders said in a statement, it is now clear that the SPLC has proven to be a hate-filled, anti-Christian, anti-conservative organization and nothing more than a weapon of the radical left, whose goal is to bully people into compliance with their ideology. The Trump administration is cutting the number of refugees it will allow into the U.S. to 18,000. The administration set aside 5,000 slots for religious minorities, but faith-based groups say that will hurt Christians and others seeking asylum from persecution. The president has steadily reduced the overall number of refugees from 85,000 in 2016. Critics say the policy is affecting persecuted Christians from at least half a dozen nations. Just this week, the president announced a new initiative to promote global religious freedom. Refugee advocates say refugee policy should be linked to religious freedom. A controversial Facebook glorifying and encouraging terrorism against Israel is taken down, but not by the social media giant. Fatah, the political party of Mahmoud Abbas, owned the page and its propaganda. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has that story.
Palestinian Media Watch sounded the alarm recently in a 40-page report called the Fatah Facebook Terror Promotion Partnership.
We're finding is that Fatah uses this as its main social media means to send out its violent and hateful messages.
Director Itamar Marcus laid out in detail how Fatah not only was encouraging terror on Facebook, it also praised specific events of violence.
Omar Abu Layla murdered 2 Israelis in March of this year, within days of his being tracked down and killed by Israeli soldiers. Fatah on Facebook was calling him the perfect person.
According to Marcus, Fatah's page boasted 250,000 followers.
So Fatah is sending out its message to its youth in Arabic that they see Omar Abu Layla as a role model, as someone who they're supposed to be copying.
In March, Facebook sent Marcus a form letter, a response he calls inadequate.
They sent us back this beautiful letter. You may find this distasteful or offensive, but it doesn't violate our standards, so why don't you stop following them?
Marcus took action by starting a social media campaign against the page.
Thousands of people have mailed emails to the heads of Facebook. There have been complaints of specific items demanding that they remove this site, which promotes terror.
Then CBN News and other news organizations began making inquiries to Facebook. On Wednesday, the Facebook page suddenly shut down, with Fatah all but admitting its page broke Facebook rules against encouraging terrorism when its editor told the Times of Israel, "We decided to close it down for a period of time as a precautionary measure. We were worried that Facebook would shut it down permanently because of that Israeli organization's campaign and complaints against it."
Literally, they're waiting for the campaign. They're so upset and so afraid of our campaign that they're closing it.
Also on Wednesday, Facebook responded to CBN News after the site was closed. We received reports about potentially violating content on this page, and as we do with all such reports, are in the process of reviewing that content to determine whether it violates our policies. We did not, however, take the action that unpublished this page.
Facebook should just close it down and permanently, once and for all. Facebook has to stop looking for excuses, if they are, for Fatah, and they just have to close this down.
Our Chris Mitchell joins us now with more. Fatah took the Facebook page down, but what are the concerns of Itamar Marcus of the Palestinian Media Watch, Chris?
Well, Mark, the concerns that Marcus has is, first of all, that actually Fatah could reopen the Facebook page. It hasn't been shut down permanently. The other concern he had was the Facebook reaction, which he called quite inadequate, the way their sort of tepid reaction against what is obviously incitement and a promotion of terror. You know, we've been talking with Itamar Marcus for over 20 years. In fact, it was the Y agreement that mandated that in the peace process that the Palestinian Authority or Fatah or all these Palestinian organizations would have to stop incitement. In fact, he wrote what I think is called sort of a landmark book on this called Deception, Betraying the Peace Process. This has been going on Palestinian media and obviously on these platforms, social media platforms, for many years, and yet it hasn't been stopped yet.
What is the latest on Benjamin Netanyahu forming a new Israeli government? A lot of talk about that.
That's right. Well, as you know, Mark, just the other night, Israeli President Reuven Rivlin gave Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the mandate to go ahead and form a coalition government. He has 28 days to do it, perhaps another 14-period extension that he can form that government. Many people think it's probably political mission impossible because many of these parties are so divided and have made public announcements that they will not serve with another coalition partner. So he has 55 seats. He needs 6 more to get to that 61 majority that would actually be able to form a government. Whether or not he can do that remains to be seen. Right now, we're looking at the Jewish High Holy Days, so actually that's going to probably disrupt some of this political process.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. The Jewish New Year begins this Sunday. What's it like there in Israel right now?
Well, it's a very holy time, Mark. Right now on Sunday evening, Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year is going to begin. That's a celebration. People are talking to one another, greeting one another, saying Shana Tova, which means good new year. And there's a tradition of having apples and honey, which is symbolic of a new and prosperous and a sweet new year. Then it begins the 10 days of awe. This is a period from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur, and it's a time of examination, self-reflection, asking people forgiveness, making amends with people. That's a very important time here. Then that culminates on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish New Year, the Day of Atonement. And then after that, several days after that, begins the Feast of Tabernacles, and that's a celebration of how God protected the Jewish people, the Israelites, when they came out and on their way to the Promised Land. So it's a very important time. There's going to be 500,000 people estimated going down to the Western Wall in this 10-day period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's a very important, solemn time.
All right, well, quickly, what do you have this week on Jerusalem Dateline?
Well, on Jerusalem Dateline, we're going to have a roundtable with Julie Stahl and John Wagi, trying to explain to people the machinations of the Israeli political process and how we go from here. We'll be talking about the high holy days as well. We have a story about how they make shofars. Because, you know, on Rosh Hashanah, it's the Feast of Trumpets. So we have an important story on that. We have a story, too, about what's happening at the Western Wall during that time, a special prayer that Jews pray during this time. And as well, we'll have more talk about what's happening at the UN with Iran, that talk about a possible regional war. We think it's going to be an informative and inspiring Jerusalem Dateline.
Yeah, it sounds like a very important show. All right, Chris, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And you can catch Jerusalem Dateline tonight with Chris on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. Coming up, what's behind all the political wrangling in Great Britain over Brexit?
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
There's not only a bitter divide in American politics these days, we see it across the pond in the British government with a showdown over Brexit. I spoke with our Dale Hurd about what's happening there. Here to help us break down what's going on is our European correspondent, Dale Hurd. Dale, is Parliament going to manage to stop Brexit?
They're trying. I mean, they've proved themselves to be largely useless when it comes to Brexit. There's lots of talking, and they're trying to make Boris Johnson feel guilty and resign. But nothing, in my opinion, is going to get done. We're going to keep barreling toward October 31st, and then there are a couple of outcomes. Johnson will say he disagreed with the Supreme Court ruling, and the country voted for Brexit, and he's taking the country out. Or we have Article 50, and there's an extension, and then probably a general election, and that's a can of worms for his opponents, which we can talk about.
So Johnson, can he actually, according to British law, just make like an executive order, so to speak, to remove Britain from the European Union?
Well, it's funny you should raise that, Mark, because there is a problem with British law. They don't have a constitution. They'll actually refer to their constitution. They don't have one. They have the Acts of Parliament, and they have judicial rulings. And that worked as long as they were civil and so forth. But as the country is fraying, I'm not sure their form of government is proving to be adequate. And that's why there's all this disagreement over who can do what. Whether, the Supreme Court, Johnson can't do that. Johnson's saying, well, I don't respect the ruling of the Supreme Court.
Theresa May resigned over Brexit, and there are calls for Boris Johnson to resign. Will Brexit be Johnson's downfall as well?
It won't. It might be his path to glory, but it won't be his downfall. What could be his downfall would be general elections if for some reason the country felt like he was really incompetent. But right now, his opponents are afraid of general elections. And that is why he dared his opponents this week to do a vote of no confidence. That would dissolve Parliament, and they'd have to have fresh national elections. And I believe his majority would grow, and his opponents are afraid of that.
Why is it so hard for the British politicians to come to an agreement over leaving the European Union when it's something the majority of the population wants? I mean, we've been hearing about this for a long time.
Yeah, the elites don't want it. It's the elites against the people. The media doesn't want it. And it's funny because you have this sort of facade, you have this image that keeps getting propagated that the country doesn't want Brexit. Polls show, which we never hear about, polls show the country wants Brexit without a deal. So a majority of Britons have said, we'll take Brexit without a deal. But this image keeps getting pushed that the country doesn't want it. And that's what keeps this show going. It's going to come to a dead stop if we have a general election and we find out what the British people really think.
So what is going to happen next, do you think?
I think we're going to head toward Halloween. That's your deadline, trick or treat. And I think either Boris Johnson's going to say, look, we're out. That's what the people voted for. And then it's going to go to the Supreme Court and probably get squashed. He said he'd rather be dead in a ditch than renegotiate another deal. But we may see Article 50, which extends the deadline.
Okay, Dale Hurd, our European correspondent. Thanks for your insight, sir.
Thank you.
Still ahead, it's time to talk sports with CBN's Sean Brown, including a look at the Eagles and Packers game last night.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com. Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs, from health to entertainment, you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place, from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Check your local listings or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Come
home to the sounds of Southern Gospel from CBN Radio. You'll enjoy a rich Southern blend of bluegrass, classic gospel, and Southern gospel favorites like the Gaithers, the Crab Family, and bluegrass sounds like Mountain Faith. So make yourself at home with the all-new CBN Southern Gospel, now available at cbnradio.com.
We have CBN sports reporter Sean Brown with us now to talk about the latest sports news. Welcome, Sean.
Hey, Mark. How are you, man?
Doing okay.
Yes, sir.
First of all, let's talk about the Eagles and the Packers last night. Eagles did pull it off. Talk about it.
Yeah, 34-27. Great game. Great passing game. However, the Packers could not run the ball as much. The Eagles are a very, very persistent team. Never give up. But I will tell you, both of these teams have a lot of weapons on their squads, but at the end of the day, it comes down to the little things. They were not able to run the ball. The Packers were not able to run the ball. I think Aaron Rodgers had 87 yards, and that was the most for the whole team. 46 of those yards were Aaron Rodgers with 87 totaling. Whereas the Eagles rushing, they had 176 yards led by Jordan Howard with 87. Now, in order to be able to pass the ball, you've got to be able to run the ball. And the Packers weren't able to do that. And so the Eagles got the best of that at the end of the night. So we will see these teams, play better. They may even see them in the postseason, so we'll have to see.
Patriots release Antonio Brown. Is he going to play in the NFL?
Well, the Patriots released him for a reason. I mean, it was Robert Kraft, the owner's decision to release Antonio Brown. I don't know that Tom Brady was happy about it, but when you have that much baggage going into an organization, it becomes a distraction, and it starts to take away from the actual game. And so I don't know. I mean, he's coming out now and saying he doesn't want to play. Now he wants to play, going back and forth. I don't know that a team will sign him, but sometimes talent is not enough. Some teams it might be. So we'll have to wait and see if teams are willing to gamble on Antonio Brown. It's not his talent's not the question. It's just about, how much of a distraction is he going to be if we bring him into the locker room. At the end of the day, that's what it's going to come down to. So we'll have to wait and see.
Your show, Going the Distance, comes up this weekend. Yeah. What are we going to see?
Well, I've got some great stories. Former running back Glenn Coffey, if you remember 2009, he in 2010, abruptly left the league, said he's going to retire because he felt like the Lord told him to leave. So I'm going to catch up with him. It's been roughly 10 years since that day, and so we want to find out what he's been doing lately. It's pretty interesting, his perspective, because there's a lot of details in there that we didn't get to hear that we're going to catch up on. So that's that. We've got also Chicago Bears tight end Trey Burton coming up. He's going to share why he plays the game. His faith is everything to him. I don't know that everybody knows that story, but we have that as well. And then there's this app. The app it's the BFI by Stay Healthy app, and it basically takes all of your vitals and tells you how your body's doing, how healthy your body is. BMI, body mass index, it was the normal way that you would be able to tell how much body fat you had. But this app, the BFI by Stay Healthy app, will literally show you virtually what your organs look like.
Wow.
So when you, you put all your information in, and then it'll tell you, okay, well, this is how much body fat, is on your heart. This is how much body fat you have on your kidneys, because a lot of times when you're measuring body fat, it's usually exterior and just weight and what you're carrying on the outside. But what BFI by Stay Healthy does is it takes the inside of your organs and tells you, okay, well, this is what your fat really looks like. Your heart, your kidneys, your liver. And by seeing that, hopefully you can make some healthy choices about working out and what you're eating. So all that's coming up.
All right.
Every Saturday.
Jam-packed show.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man.
Sean.
It's going to be good. You got it, bro.
All right. And you can catch Going the Distance this weekend on the CBN News Channel. Like Sean said, Saturday night, it's at 6:30. And it's also on Sunday night at 7:30. Coming up, DreamWorks has a new animated feature with an abominable snowman. It hits theaters this week. A closer look after this.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News.
Here's a Studio 5 sneak peek at Abominable in theaters this weekend.
You need to spend more time here with your family.
Oh, where are you going?
Be back before dinner.
Be careful out there.
No boy.
Got it covered. Bye.
I just want to escape.
Abominable is the story of a teenage girl named Yi who lives in a big metropolis in China. And one night while she's on the rooftop playing her violin, she discovers a 2,000-pound Yeti and embarks on a journey with two of the other kids in her apartment building to get this Yeti all the way back to his Himalayan home.
There's a Yeti on my roof.
The real journey is kind of the idea of what home is. What does home mean to people? What does home mean after loss? What does home mean when you are a young person trying to figure yourself out?
Is that your home? No way.
I really wanted her character to be kind of that tomboy, that strong-willed girl that could take this journey all the way from, you know, the big city all the way across China to the Himalayas.
She's the anti-princess. She's that she's the character for the girls who like watch princess movies and they're like, that's cool, I respect that, but that's not enough for me. I don't see myself in that, and that's what we have with you.
Go faster!
I'm trying!
Everest, do something!
I just want people to see that there can be a story that stars a young woman who is Chinese, that is set in China, and it can be a completely universal story for every single type of person to love.
I wish Dad were here to see this.
Yeah, Ma, Beijing is great.
Yi's theme really is about when the journey gets tough, never give up.
My dad used to play for me every night, like he was telling me that no matter how hard the journey gets, never give up.
Life is hard, and you have to find something within you that gives you the strength to keep going.
When Yi sets her mind on something, nothing is impossible.
When things get tough, you need to surround yourself with family, your friends, those around you, those who are close to you, anyone who can support you.
I don't know where you came from.
Code red!
He escaped.
I will make sure you get home, back to your family.
That's going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.